Hello and welcome to Campaign Preview 2. This is your second look at the later stages of the single-player campaign for Stronghold Warlords. Today I've got with me, not the man pictured in the video there, but I've got with me Tony, lead programmer at Firefly. Tony, do you want to say hello and tell us a few things about the stuff that you do at Firefly?
Hi, I am looking more like Genghis today. The my name's Tony DeLibero. I'm the lead programmer on Stronghold Warlords and a senior programmer at Firefly Studios. Worked on a bunch of our titles, been here for better part of a decade and a half almost. So it's been a long ride.
It's all right, Tony. You're in good
Um,
company. I realised the other day that I've been here for 9 years.
yeah, that sounds about right.
I think since the start of my internship, so
Holy
we're
cow.
veterans at this point, I think.
Yeah, that's like ancient ages in game programmer and developer terms.
Cool. So as you can see here, we've got some of the yurts, which are the hovel variants for the Mongolian portion of the single-player campaign. We've also got Genghis's keep, which is a new addition, most recent addition, I think, in the last couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's cool to see a variety of different keeps in the game because obviously, like as a small company, we can't do like completely different walls, completely different buildings, for each of the four nations that we're representing. But I think the keep's quite a nice little touch.
Yeah, it kind of sets the stage for what your faction is, like what area you're in, and I don't know, relates a little more to the geographic area as
Yes.
opposed to just kind of always looking the same. So it kind of grounds that at least, even though we're definitely going for the smorgasbord of cultural blending with all the
Yes.
various troop types that you might have in a given army.
Yeah. We're kind of doing as much as we can do in terms of, making each location feel unique in terms of like, I guess like ground textures, a few buildings, not like most of them are going to be pretty uniform for, the four different portions of the campaign. But there are a few things that we can do to make you believe that you're, in 300 BC or, 100, 1600 AD or however far forward we're going. But the keep's definitely a nice thing to sort of touch on.
Yeah, I think the terrain in general too, the flavor of the open plains here versus the jungly areas is pretty different, and
Yeah.
also kind of sets the scene. For this game, I'm working on a number of things. You basically responsible for the core code systems and just making sure all the code works together. We have a couple of other people working on code. Matt, who I believe has is well known to people who watch these streams at this point,
Yep.
and Stephen, our designer, is doing a ton of the code as well this time. And we have help from Jack also. He's come over from Metamorph. So we have four of us in total touching the code at the moment. And so I'm coordinating that with everybody and just making sure it all glues together. And I've been focused mostly on the core tech stuff. So making the physics stuff and the network code work
Hmm.
and the game systems and efficiency and all that stuff. It's my main focus, but personally, I've done a lot of gameplay coding, so a lot of the units and a lot of the economic systems. I do the UI and the animation and the coding for that, and lots and lots of polish work lately.
Yes. Well, it's not a million miles away from, you hear like stories of one developer teams. And if you read up on it, they actually worked with a bunch of, outsourced artists and all that kind of stuff. So it's not entirely different to that. Like you're responsible for quite a lot of the kind of core game.
Oh yeah, each of us has quite a bit of a load compared to a company that had, say, more than 4 coders working on an entire RTS. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, well, Jack is helping out. He's doing like really specific systems now, but for
Yep.
most of the development time, it was just Matt, myself, and Steven writing all
Yep.
the code. And of course, we were building on our prior work, but I think in terms of specialty, we have one graphics guy really. Matt is our main shader programmer. I can touch the stuff, but I barely can do what he can manage.
Yep.
And Steven has taken on big swaths of things like polishing the formations code to be more interesting than we had in the
Yeah.
past, and working on gameplay systems in general. But yeah, I mean, usually one of these systems, like a farm system or an industry system or a military unit or a trap or something like that, ends up being a very tight collaboration between just Andreas and one of us coders to make the whole thing happen, including basic implementation and polish and all
Yeah.
that
I mean,
stuff.
I'll never forget. I think it was, I can't remember what show it was, maybe PAX or GDC or something like that. But I was talking to someone who worked in AAA about RTSs, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I can't imagine doing an RTS with less than 50 staff." And I was like, "Well, let me talk to you, my friend, about the Firefly way."
Yeah, every
um,
time I watch an epic scene from something like a Total War game, and you just see the production values they can put in there because they have huge, talented staffs, right?
yeah,
It blows my mind. I'm like, okay, so we look at it from okay, we're a little scrappier than that. What can we
right.
pull off?
I think if
For
you
our
talk to any of
lethal
them and you said that we had
differences.
essentially like 2.5 coders, they'd just have a heart attack and just drop dead straight there on the spot.
Yep.
So one of the
Yeah,
earliest things you
it's
did,
fun.
which we can see here, is the wall system reworked with Crusader
Yes.
2. Do you want to talk a little bit about the kind of improvements we've got there? Stuff like it hugging the terrain and all the kind of new little features we've got.
Yeah, glad to. So early on, just during development, we had a lot of carryover wishes from Crusader 2, and one of our first things to do with a number of these things is to experiment and see what we can improve, to get more towards what we want versus
Mm.
how things were. So a big part of that was the walls, and in Crusader 2, the walls had gone from being freeform placement to adhering to a grid again, as they had in old titles, just for gameplay's sake, really, because it's much easier to build, especially something as complex as walls,
Yep.
without having to fiddle about lining them up precisely with towers. If you have a grid system, it's much easier. So that whole wall system was pretty complex, and it worked, but it couldn't do things like slope terrain too well, and it couldn't do things like uh, connections between buildings and towers quite the way we liked.
Yep.
So this time around, we kind of looked back and we're like, man, what can we do to make the walls better and thinner as well? Because the actual thickness of a strong wall in Crusader 2 was rather large in terms of tiles. It was at least 2 tiles wide, and it had a quarter tile on either side for the crenellations, right? So this time around, we're like, okay, we kind of want a single tile to be a full up wall with crenellation, so that the castles don't have to be thick to be effective, right? They look a little more accurate, when they're thinner like this, because that's how real walls are.
Mm.
And if you want to build big, thick extensive walls, then you can do it. So basically, we looked back and we said, you know what? Legends actually did that quite well. It had single tile width walls that had the crenellation built in, and were walkable, and had a good interconnection scheme. So I went back to the drawing board with that and studied it, and reconfigured our wall system from Crusader 2's standpoint to work more like Legends. And a big part of that too was following terrain, because we thought, okay, we're making a game. It's going to be set in a generic Asia, but if we can't have walls rolling over hills like in all the reference art we've been looking at, people are going to be rather disappointed. If you can't create something that looks like the Great Wall of China and
Yeah.
just hugs the terrain and looks like it belongs in the
It's pretty much
landscape.
the only reason why we're adding
Instead,
Steam Workshop
yeah,
support, right? We need to see that map realized.
exactly. So yeah, we thought, okay, well, this is well worth focusing on from a gameplay perspective anyway, but certainly we'd be remiss to not actually do it for this game in particular. So yeah, I had a lot of time early on to experiment around, and that was one of the things I was able to get some time for. And we liked how it was going, so we carried on, and that's why we have this wall system that astute fans of the series will recognize is very similar to the Legend system in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And also just for new fans as well, like the wall system just being super, super duper easy to use. And like, we often use the word paint when you're talking about painting walls and, laying them out. But you really do want it to be just like a brushstroke and it's done kind of thing. You don't want to be fiddling with connections and, all these kind of like glitchy issues that you're basically inviting by creating a really complex wall system for a game.
Yeah, well, we still have a very in-depth wall system for this kind of game
Yeah.
compared to many.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is the interconnections with all the towers and how they all come together.
Yeah.
How stairs work and how you have a wall surface. Like when troops are up on the wall, they get a range bonus due
Yep.
to their altitude.
Yep.
Archers shoot further. They are defended. There's a percentage of the arrows that would hit the troops instead
Yep.
deflect off the walls, for example.
I think
So,
earlier on this video we saw the fire arrow cart hitting the tower and bouncing off. That looks really cool.
Oh yeah.
Really pleased with that. One thing we saw a second ago as well was another callback to Legends, the auto buy and auto